Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing my bracket prediction for the Overwatch World Cup. We know now the top 8 teams participating in the World Cups. No huge surprises, maybe one or two teams in spots we didn't expect. I think only one team that I didn't expect to move on advanced, so it is what it is. I don't think, like I said, no real shockers here. But made a little bracket, and we're going to go through it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on who I think will win and give you my reasonings why. So, the 4 group winners. The Group A winner, South Korea. Group B winner, Great Britain. Group C winner, China. And the Group D winner, Saudi Arabia. And then the Group A runner-up is Finland. The Group B runner-up, Canada. Group C runner-up, Spain. The Group D runner-up is the United States of America. So those are your 8 teams. These are the matchups. You can see them here. Let's dive in and let's give my thoughts. So the first matchup we have is going to be South Korea versus Canada. To me, no real shocker here about who should win this one. Canada, they couldn't get past Great Britain. They did beat Australia and Brazil. Good wins, but Great Britain kind of dismantled them. South Korea, easily the best team here. I think it is going to be a 3-0 win here. Fun little way to do this through challenge. I think South Korea wins one pretty easily. I think they're the better team. I think they're definitively the best team we've seen so far in the World Cup. They did have a bit of a close match against Finland, which was a bit of a shock. I think that when you consider just the history of South Korea, for a lot of teams, losing a map's not that big a deal. For 2016, 2017, 2018, South Korea never lost a map in the World Cup. So they lost a map so far to Finland. It was a very close series. Finland was honestly 1 point on flashpoint away from winning the series. So I don't think South Korea is necessarily the odds-on 100% guaranteed favorite. I think they're certainly the favorite, but I don't think it's a guarantee. But I do think against Canada, they should be able to walk away from that one victorious. Next, we have the semifinals matchup between China and the United States. What a phenomenal round 1 game we have here. Unbelievable matchup between two really, really good teams. China, I think, has had the most dominant performance so far in this World Cup, though I think their group was the weakest outside of themselves. I don't think Spain, Thailand, or Hong Kong were particularly strong teams, so to me, China winning that group was definitely kind of guaranteed. I don't think they've been pushed very hard. I don't think they've been challenged very hard. It is my one concern for this team is that because they haven't been tested, they might just kind of feel maybe a little too confident. Obviously, they were just very, very good in the Overwatch League, so no real reason to think they can't still be good. And they go up against a team from the United States that somewhat shockingly, you might throw out there, did not win their group, losing a match to Saudi Arabia, but having a very dominant victory over Japan yesterday to lock up their spot after a pretty close win against France. And I think, honestly, Super coming in against Japan was a very, very, very good move. I think Super really is a very solid player, very strong player. Seems like they made changes and they felt like he is the guy they want to go with going forward. It is just one game, but the fact that they brought him in to play Sigma, which is Kaluja's main hero, really kind of feels like they think Super is actually the guy to lead this team. I thought Sugar Free looked a lot better in the game against Japan. I thought he looked pretty bad against France. I thought he was one of the players that I looked at as a bit of an issue in that game against France. I thought he looked much better against Japan. The team just looked to be kind of living up to the potential of what we think they are against Japan. And it gives me the feeling that maybe they actually are as good as we thought. They just needed to make a little bit more change, and potentially you kind of look and you say they just needed to have that fire lit under them, and they needed to have the feeling of pressure of we have to be able to kind of win this game. We dropped the game. Maybe we feel like that was the thing that kind of turns this Team USA around. And so I have to balance the fact that I think you have a China team that just did not really get challenged at all, and a USA team that did, but I think bounced back very, very well. They are the defending champions. I think they are a team that has faced a lot of adversity. I think this one will be close. I think this is the closest semifinal or closest quarterfinal there is. To me, I still think if there are 3 or 4 teams that can win, this is the only matchup here in the first round between 2 teams that I actually think are competitive with the top of the league. And so I think it'll be interesting to see who wins this one. But I'm gonna go in favor of China in a 3-2 score. I think it will be very close. I think it will be a very good matchup, but I think China's looked better so far. I certainly think that the U.S. in their kind of newer look, the way they looked with Super In, look better. I think, like I said, you give them a day off, you give them the chance to really kind of review film and get another day of practice with Super In. I think they'll be better, but I do think that when you think about the way that the players on this Chinese roster played in the World Cup so far and also just played in the Overwatch League playoffs, they feel like a really, really good team. I don't think it's a great meta for the team. I think that they would much prefer a meta where they can play something like Winston. So I think in that way it favors the U.S., but I just think we've seen way too much consistency out of China that I think they will walk away from this one and knock the U.S. out here in that round 1. Next, Great Britain versus Finland. This is a tough one. Great Britain looked very dominant in their group. It was a group that, going into the tournament, seemed like it might be a more competitive group than it ended up being. They dominated. I don't think they dropped a map in the group. 2-0 win over Canada, 2-0 win over Brazil, 2-0 win over Australia. They're a very, very good-looking roster. Finland pushed Korea to the distance. The team that we think is the best team in the world, in Team South Korea, got pushed to the brink by Finland. I think Finland has a lot of talent on this roster. I think they're a phenomenal roster. I think this is going to be a real banger of a series. I think that both of these teams have looked very good so far in this World Cup. I really don't know who's going to win. I think that considering the challenges, what we've seen from these teams, I think I feel a little bit better right now about Finland and what they were able to do against South Korea, but I don't think that it's necessarily a one-sided affair. I don't necessarily think that this game is going to be one-sided, but Great Britain's wins were not against teams as impressive as I think what Finland did against South Korea. Yes, they lost that game, right? Yes, Great Britain didn't drop a game, but to me, South Korea should be a relatively one-sided victory if you're South Korea. Any team you play if you're South Korea should be easy to beat, outside of maybe China and the U.S. The fact that Finland pushed them and almost won that series, to me, says a lot. I don't think this is a South Korea roster that's going to be trolling and not trying. I think that the talent in this roster, these players have never been in the World Cup before. Russia's never coached the World Cup before. There's a lot of factors that, to me, scream this is a team that really does want to try and really does want to go the distance. So for me, I think when you look at how Finland played against them and just I think the level of play they've had, it's a Sigma meta. I think they really, really, really work with Vistola in the tank role. I think he's been very good for this team so far. I think their DPS are clicking. I think Great Britain has a lot of really talented players, and we've seen them move them around in ways that are very, very good. Backbone's been very good so far. Kai's been very, very good. It's tough. I think it's a really close one, but I just cannot get that Finland versus South Korea result out of my head. It was so close. Finland almost had it. There was a very real possibility we'd be talking about Finland playing Canada and South Korea playing Great Britain, right? Like, the fact that that was almost a possibility and that was almost a thing, to me, is why I just have to go with Finland, because they just looked phenomenal in their match yesterday, and I think that their level of dominance was pretty good, even outside of that series. It's not like they got rolled over. It's not like the game between the U.S. and France where Map 2 was close, and then Map 3 was a roll and a steamroll by the U.S. over France. Finland was in that game. They almost won it. And I think that, to me, very similar potential here for a game like that, where maybe it's close and it's just that little bit extra that Great Britain has in their favor that helps them get over the edge. But to me, Finland is going to be hungry. They're going to want to bounce back from that performance, and I think they might be the big upset if you want to consider it that, here against Great Britain. Saudi Arabia versus Spain. Shout out to Spain, honestly. I did not think they really had it. I thought they were going to be one of the weaker teams in this World Cup. Like I said, I don't think this group was particularly great. I think it was actually one of the things where you really only do better than one team. Hong Kong was not that good. If you were better than Thailand, you were going to move on. There's a lot of chaos with this team. Obviously, 2 of their damage dealers leaving. They have to promote 2 new ones with Punk and Bones. Crazy Dragon starts getting play time. She didn't play a ton in the qualifiers. There was a recipe for disaster for the Spain team, and they were really good. They were very good against Hong Kong. They were very good against Thailand. They looked good in the games they played. Yeah, they lost to China. Everybody loses to China right now, just when you look at the way things are. And I think it's really respectable what Spain was able to do. I think Saudi Arabia was really good. Straight up, I think we have been undervaluing Saudi Arabia a lot. I think we all kind of thought, because of the way they played in the qualifiers, that they were just going to kind of, generally speaking, roll in with these Farah comps and just dominate on the Farah and kind of call it a day. Labda barely played damage in this series. He played some Echo in their third game. But yeah, we saw Labda play a little bit of Farah in that, and a little bit of Echo in that game against France. But outside of that, really was a lot of UB and Quartz. It was a big UB and Quartz kind of duo. I think KSA on Sigma is a phenomenal pick. I think it's one of his best heroes. And so to me, this is a really good Saudi Arabia team. The fact that they beat the U.S. isn't necessarily the U.S. is playing poorly. I don't want to say the U.S. is phenomenal and that people are overreacting. No, the U.S. did not play particularly well. But to me, Saudi Arabia had a very good run. And I think it's because they're a very good team. And I think they're going to dominate a Spain team that I just do not think is in position right now to beat a Saudi Arabia team that I just think right now is really good. So give me Saudi Arabia to take over that game against Spain. And there we go. My top 4 now: South Korea, China, Finland, Saudi Arabia, as we move in to the semifinals. Moving into the semifinals, South Korea versus China. What a phenomenal matchup. Really, could be the finals. That's the caliber of team we have here. I hope this is supposed to give me a third place match. I set it to give me a third place match, so it should. But, oh well. To me, these are the best 2 teams in the World Cup that we've seen so far. I think that one of them whoever wins this game should win the whole thing. I think that they have just looked the best. I think USA, if they bounce back and they look more consistent than against Japan, they could be in that conversation as well. But I do think these are the best 2 teams in the world. And I think despite the fact that in past years we've seen very kind of dominant performances from South Korea, you think back to even 2019, even when Team USA won against Team China didn't match up well, right? They got 4-0'd against Team USA. Team USA swept them in the grand finals. I don't think that will happen this year. I think that the level of competition is too good across the board, and there's too many really good teams in the world at this point in time. There's just too many really talented rosters that I find it hard to go, yeah, one team's way too good or one team's not good or anything like that. I just don't think it's really that case. I think that both of these teams are very good. I think it'll be a very interesting series. I think the way that the meta has gone, if you asked me during the playoffs or just after the playoffs who I thought would win this matchup, I think I'd be a little bit more pro Team China because they just looked very good in the World Cup. But I think that just the way the meta has evolved, Sigma has become way too good of a hero. I think that South Korea have just looked way better on Sigma, considering they have arguably the best Sigma player in the world with Hanbin on the roster. I think that they are the better team right now, but this is a map pick type of thing. You can make those types of swaps. So I want this to be a really good series. I want it to be very close. I think South Korea will win. I am going to say 3-1. It's been a little bit too one-sided in the past. Where's my third place game? Anyway, it's been a little too one-sided in the past in favor of South Korea. South Korea's just been a little too good. I do think China's very good. I think the meta is just not really ideal for them. I think in terms of meta, if the meta is what we think it is, which is the Sigma comp, Bastion, stuff like that, I actually think USA might be the better matchup against South Korea. Because I think, in theory, the things that China is best at are also the things South Korea is best at. But South Korea also can play more variety of comps than China can. So I think South Korea just matches up really well against China. I think China's very good. I think they are a good team. I think if there is a year for China to win it, this is the year. I think that a lot of this talent might not be in the scene next year, especially considering the way the game is right now in China. It doesn't exist. But this is the best team of Chinese players that's ever been assembled. And I think that this might be the best team of South Korean players that's ever been assembled. It might not be. But it's definitively the best team of Chinese players that's ever been assembled. I think they are phenomenal. I think they're very good. And I think that they could do it. But I just think that the Sigma comps are way too good for South Korea. I think they just benefit from it a little bit more. And so I think they take it. That would be Finland versus Saudi Arabia for the final semifinals matchup. They played back in the qualifiers. This would be the first rematch of a game from the Overwatch World Cup qualifiers. The entire tournament. We haven't had a single game like that yet. So this would be the first time. When they played before, it was a close series. Saudi Arabia walked away from it victorious. I think that Finland has improved a lot since then. I also think Saudi Arabia has improved a lot since then. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they match up again. I think both of these teams are really good. I think they're both phenomenal. I think that, like I said, I think that we have potentially been underrating Saudi Arabia for how good they are. I think that this roster is arguably all Overwatch League caliber. If we get the open circuit that we kind of think we might be getting for Overwatch Esports next year, Twisted Minds, some kind of Saudi Arabian team, genuinely could be the best team in the West. Could be the team that's winning the EMEC Open, the whatever kind of tournaments they have. Like, I think this is a really good team. And it's a really good roster, and it's really talented players. And I think it's really hard to pick against them, considering they have been definitively the best team in Europe all year. Now, Finland, you have a player like Sana, who's been in the Overwatch League all year, Masa, who's retired. I think that there's a very real possibility that Finland could come back in and be a really, really good piece and a really good part of this team and are able to do it. But I just do not think Saudi Arabia is going to drop this one. I think they're way too good. The fact that they beat Team USA the way they did, I think they are in the driver's seat right now. I think they take it over Finland. And I think we get Saudi Arabia in the finals against South Korea. Now, we have a third place match. It's not showing up here, even though I told it to. It didn't give it to me. But third place match would be fought between Finland and China. I think China would win that one convincingly. I think it would be 3-0. I think China would dominate. And that one, Finland did have a very close series against South Korea. So maybe it would be closer than I'm giving it credit for. But I think that the winner of South Korea versus China probably wins the World Cup. The loser probably gets third. I think that's just the situation as it is. I think Saudi Arabia making the finals is a testament to what has happened in Saudi Arabia as a region so far. I think that side of the bracket is significantly easier in my opinion. Arguably, the three best teams in the world going into the World Cup are all on one side of the bracket. South Korea, China, USA are all on one side. Saudi Arabia just to beat basically the best that Europe has to offer, and they've already pretty much done that. So it's one of those things where I unfortunately think the best games in this World Cup are probably going to be China versus the US and then South Korea versus whoever wins China versus the US. I think those are going to be the best games. I think the finals is first to four. If memory serves me correctly, I believe that is what it is. And I think Saudi Arabia is going to be unable to do much of anything against South Korea. So this is kind of where I feel like you just look at the way the scene is. You look at what Overwatch Esports has been. I think Saudi Arabia is very good. I think they're a very good team. They have a lot of really good players. I think they're very much ascending as a region. Maybe not even ascending anymore. They are very much one of the top countries right now in the Overwatch scene. They've been very good. I think that they are lucky that they are on a side of the bracket that I think they are favored. But guys, South Korea is still the best in the world. They are simply put still the best country in the world when it comes to Overwatch. Yes, they didn't win the last World Cup. This year they're firing on all cylinders. The players are really, really kind of firing. And I think you can put those players on LAN in front of fans. I think it's a different animal. I think they're just better. I think they just will be way, 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 way more kind of... I think they'll feed off the crowd a little bit more. Unfortunately for the players from Saudi Arabia, I don't think the crowd will be particularly receptive to them. Unfortunately, I think it's you're in the U.S. It's a crowd that, one, they just beat the U.S., but also, of course, there's just a lot of cultural and social and political reasons why I just don't think that the Saudi Arabian team will be very popular with the crowd. I think they'll probably be the heels of this World Cup. I think most of the fans there will probably not be cheering on Saudi Arabia, so I think that they are going to be in a very hostile environment from the crowd. Hopefully it doesn't get too bad, because I think that would be a very bad thing to have players getting, really, really terrible things thrown at them verbally, or definitely, hopefully not physically. So I definitely think there's an element of that'll come into play. I just think South Korea is too good. I think they're not going to be beaten, I think, by Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia wants to come and roll out on their best, their best Farah comps, South Korea is just going to handle those with ease. Lip's going to deal with that with ease on hitscan. Hanbin's Diva is going to be able to deal with that. I just think it's very tough to ask Saudi Arabia to beat a phenomenal group of South Korean players who I just think right now are phenomenal, right? So I think South Korea should be the team that wins, but I do think right now, the way things stand, Saudi Arabia is in a very good position. I think they should be the team that gets second in this World Cup. And like I said, I have China in third over Finland. I think Finland's good. No hate for Finland, but right now I think China looks to be one of the top teams in the world, and the fact that they're on the same side of the bracket as South Korea does mean that they unfortunately most likely won't be a top 2 team this year. So there you go. That is my predictions for the 2023 World Cup bracket. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Where do you agree with me? Where do you disagree with me? Anything like that. I'd love to hear from you in those comments, but that is all for me for today. If you enjoyed this video and want more like in the future, consider liking and subscribing, as your support does help out a lot with the channel. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all so much. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.